The Green Hornet. He hunts the biggest of all game, public enemies that even the G-men cannot reach. The Green Hornet.
The producers were trying to find sponsorship to put the Green Hornet back on the air. We were using old transcriptions of Green Hornet programs and doing them what they call sustaining. That is, they were on the air without sponsorship. It was on the air, and they were trying to sell it, and they were able finally to sell the 13-week schedule to Orange Crush.
X-Tree, X-Tree, Citadel X-Tree. Now the most refreshing drink in the world, Orange Crush, presents the Green Hornet.
This faithful valet Cato, Britt Reed, daring young publisher, matches wits with the underworld, risking his life that criminals and racketeers within the law may feel its weight by the sting of the Green Hornet. Now ride with Britt Reed in the thrilling adventure of Keys to a Robbery. The Green Hornet strikes again.
I think it was on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Chuck Livingston, who was the director, asked me would I like to try out for the part of Cato on the Green Hornet. It didn't take a whole lot of skill to be that, to play the part of Cato. Gave it a shot. He said, okay, you got the job. So for 13 weeks and 26 programs, I played Cato on the Green Hornet program.
Back in his hotel room, Britt Reed spoke low to his valet Cato, one of the four persons who knew that Reed was the Green Hornet.
Cato, I've sent Axford and Miss Benny out on assignments that'll keep them busy for the rest of the night. I told them I'd be busy on convention business and asked them to make their reports to Miss Case.
Oh, so, Mr. Britt, you have other thoughts, maybe?
Yes, Cato. I've already arranged for flight clearance back and forth. We're taking my plane and we're flying to Cuba.
Oh, good thing, Mr. Britt.
You have the Green Hornet mask and gas guns among my luggage?
Oh, yes, Mr. Britt. I have gas bombs, too.
Oh, good. If I'm to get aboard Hammond John, I may need those. I'll put 3 or 4 in my pocket after we've landed the plane near Cardenas.
Paul got his start in sound effects.
One of the sound men from the Lone Ranger program got himself drafted. And, of course, here I am holding up my hand saying, I'm here to fill the job. And so I got the job doing sound effects for the Lone Ranger. With the sound effects in the Lone Ranger program, we actually had one fellow who did studio sound and also worked in the live sound. And we had a fellow who did the recorded sound. He was up in the control booth with the director and the engineer. And there were 4 of us, actually, who did the live sound, including horse hooves. And, you know, that was the routine where we actually used little toilet plungers in a big box of dirt. And we even had it set up so that there was the order of who was who. It was a seniority situation. We had the fellows with the most seniority, they were silver, and the 2 of us with the least authority, seniority, we were scout. Uh-huh. And, of course, I had the very least authority, so actually I was a professional horse's rear end at that particular time, you know, doing sound effects. And I did that for some time. We worked, you know, that program and the Sergeant Preston program. And I did a lot of sound with the actors as well, without going into great detail. The way it was set up, the sound effects department was actually in a different room than where the actors were. And my job was to go back and forth between the sound room and come with the actors to do things that related to them, like the sound of the sock on the jaw, you know, that, and I had to create that sound in coordination with the grunt of the actors, so it had to be done at that particular time. And I hated doing it. It hurt like the dickens because I used a little rubber pad in my hand, and I used the back of my hand smacking that. That was the sound of sock on jaw.
Tony Dow, who was Wally on Leave It to Beaver.
Conley and Mosier, who were fabulous writers, they'd actually written for Amos and Andy on radio and then on television. Anyway, they came up with this idea of a family situation comedy, and they did a pilot, and it sold. But CBS, who was the network that took it on at the time, they wanted a different father and a different Wally. So it was very strange because they'd already looked at about 8,000 kids for the roles of Wally and Beaver and whatnot. So now they had to go back to the drawing board, and I'd just done a job, my very first job ever, I'd done, and a guy named Harry Ackerman, who's a Hollywood legend.
Yeah.
He was the executive producer on the thing, and so they assigned him to help get Leave It to Beaver started, and he said, hey, I work with this kid. He's pretty green, I don't know, but, you know, we've seen a lot of people, so you might want to take a look. So anyway, they called me in, and then, you know, then the rest is history. So I was very lucky. The pilot was made already, the show was sold already, and they were having trouble finding somebody.
Beaver, do you have anything to say?
Yes, sir. Well, I'll be shoving his carrots under his mashed potatoes.
I was going to eat them, Mr. Cleaver. I was just saving them so I could wash them down with my milk. Clarence.
Well, Wally, don't your mother and I detect a slight difference in the way you're combing your hair?
Gee, Dad, I didn't think you'd notice. Cleaver, Eddie Haskell and all the guys are combing their hair like that.
Well, Clarence, I noticed that you're not.
I would comb my hair like Wally's, Mrs. Cleaver, but I got a funny-shaped head.
Oh, really? I hadn't noticed.
Daddy says it's because when I was a baby, I slept on one side too much.
Yeah, it is kind of lopsided.
Wally, Beaver, you're going to be late for school. Your father already left for the office.
Coming, Mom!
Yourself.
Gee, Mom, I just wanted my hair to look good like Wally's.
Theodore, you march right up those stairs and you comb that hair the way it should be.
Tony, tell us a story of the horse on the set of Leave It to Beaver.
The horse was supposed to lay down and go to sleep. We had to get a laying down horse. In Hollywood, everything's special. And then we go to shoot the stuff with the horse laying down. The horse didn't want to lay down. It was not a very good laying down horse. You had to call in a vet, and the vet gave it a shot, relax it, get it to lay down. Still didn't lay down, so then he gave it another shot. And it was still standing up. We decided we can't waste hours during the day. We'll just go into the living room and shoot tomorrow's scenes in the living room today. We're in there doing a family scene of some sort, and all of a sudden there's this huge crash, and as the horse had finally decided to lay down, but it didn't exactly just lay down, it sort of tilted and then walked a few steps. Anyway, it knocked down the whole set. The horse did not get hurt.
And we have a particularly appropriate guest with me now, with the Olympics only a few weeks away. He's Big Steve Warbler, and he's the world champion high jumper, and you're going to be hearing a lot from Big Steve. Welcome to the sports room.
I'd like to make one correction, Biff.
Sure.
You said I was the world champion high jumper. Actually, I'm the world champion low jumper.
Can't be very much difference between the two events. What's your best mark in the low jump?
I jumped 57 feet 8 inches, which is about 50 feet farther than the record high jump. In high jumping, you stand in a low place and see how high up you can jump. Low jumping, you stand in a high place and see how far down you can jump. If you jump from a high place and get killed, then that jump does not count.
This may be an embarrassing question for you, but I've got to put it anyway. Isn't this kind of a dumb sport that would only appeal to a big lummox like yourself, who has rocks in his head?
But in the waning days of network radio, Bob and Ray showed up on the network although they had started years earlier in Boston, just thrown together as a lead-in to the Boston Red Sox and the Boston Braves baseball games. They showed up at NBC in 1951, and it was just a total different sensibility. They were just two guys in a small studio, no orchestras, although they did do one weekly show with a small band. There was no studio audience. There was nobody to tell you what was funny. It was up to the listener to determine it. They didn't do jokes. They just did ludicrous premises. They would just take a ludicrous premise and do it in total seriousness. And so to that extent, they were sort of game changers.
John Wilder.
I came down from the state of Washington in 1942. I was 7 years old. Everybody in California was learning sight reading at the time, and I'd been taught phonetics, and so I could read. A neighbor lady said to my parents, "That boy can read." I said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, they're looking for kids that can read in radio." So they took me down to CBS, and I had a general audition, and within a week I was being offered different roles. Wound up with 5 running roles at one time. I was doing Little Beaver on the Red Ryder show, Date with Judy, playing Randolph, the Jimmy Durante show, I was a regular on that, the Bob Burns show. I was doing Craig Bullard on Great Gildersleeve, Buster Brown Gang, supposedly the youngest MC in the history of radio at age 12, I guess I was, calling Abbott and Costello Uncle Bud and Uncle Lou. I did Pinocchio on Academy Award Playhouse. Well, I worked on the Jack Benny Show for 5 years. First, Jerry Farber and I were the first kids that
the Beavers
had on his radio broadcast.
Mm-hmm. Ann Whitfield has been with us at Reps for many, many years, especially early on. But it's been a little while since she's been with us over the last few years.
Phil and Alice were very private with their family life, and the girls never came to the studio. I only met them at Christmas parties, maybe once a year. That's all the contact I ever had.
And what was Phil Harris like in real life?
He was a real extrovert. He was brash and loud and usually pretty happy. He was pretty opposite from Alice. Phil didn't have a lot of class, Mm-hmm. He made up for it in enthusiasm. Alice was very refined and genteel and ladylike. And you just never would believe that they would be a happily married couple for all those years, but I believe that they were.
You remember how you got onto the show?
Yes, I remember auditioning. There was quite a competition for these two parts.
You remember some of the other kid radio actors like Stuffy Sr. or Johnny McGovern? Anything sort of pops up?
You may not know them, right?
Well, Johnny wasn't older. In fact, I succeeded Johnny as Little Beaver on Red Ryder. His voice changed.
Well, and yours, of course, didn't.
Cast him. So they cast me because my voice was never going to change.
So how long were you Little Beaver?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't think it was very long. Maybe the show didn't last. They realized that they had a kind of effeminate sounding red Little Beaver or something.
But you fit right in because you had a southern accent, right?
No, I think I had pretty well lost it by then.
That time, I was under contract to all 3 networks at the same time. Junior on The Life of Riley, Little Alexander on The Blondie Show, and Little Beaver, The Adventures of Red Ryder radio show.
From out of the West comes Red Ryder, America's famous fighting cowboy.
On that pony, Little Beaver. They've held up the Millersville trade, and we've got to get on their trail.
You betcha, Red Ryder. Get along, get him up, quick.
Tommy, what's your experience been at Showcase?
It's been a very pleasant experience, and I always look forward to it. There are so many very, very talented actors in Seattle that work with us on these shows. Everybody from Larry Albert to Jen Oliver. They're terrific actors and singers, and it's always nice to work with them.
In the radio years, you did regular parts. You were on a show as a regular, as they called it.
Hi, Miss Brooks. Hi, Mr. Boynton.
Hello, Harriet.
Mr. Boynton, Daddy wants to see you in his office right away. Something about signing a requisition for some test tubes you wanted.
Thank you, Harriet.
And, Miss Brooks, your landlady called, and she wants you to call back when you can. Now, let's see. Is there someone I've forgotten?
Better look under the table to make sure. Did Mrs. Davis say what she wanted me to call her about?
No, but she said she'd keep a receiver off the hook so her line would be open when you call.
There's something wrong with that, but offhand, I don't know just what.
You worked with the same people a lot, and so it became this wonderful family kind of feeling. Radio, you just rely so much on the other actors. There's a real team kind of feeling. And, you know, you blow a line, somebody, heaven help you, we hope they get you out of it, you know.
Well, I'd better get up to Mr. Conklin's office and get that requisition signed.
Well, see you later, Miss Brooks.
I'll walk to the phone with you, Miss Brooks.
All right, Harriet. Well, how has Santa been treating you so far, dear?
Oh, not too badly. Walter gave me a slave bracelet, but I don't think I'll wear it.
Why not?
You should see what he had engraved on it. Finder, please return this girl to Walter Denton.
I think that's cute, Harriet. If a certain party gave me one of those bracelets, I think I might enjoy getting lost.
Gloria McMillan, tell us what's so special about reps.
These radio shows are absolutely the most fun thing Ron and I do. We do live radio theater. I thought, I can't believe that. That's too good to be true. And I just feel like it's a great privilege. Every time they ask me to do anything, I just can't wait to do it.
Beverly Washburn. So did you decide, okay, I want to be a film actress?
You know, it was fun for me. I was sent on an audition at Paramount for a movie called Here Comes the Groom with Bing Crosby and Jane Wyman, Franchot Tone, Alexis Smith, Louis Armstrong, and Dorothy Lamour. It was a big cast, and I was cast as the little French war orphan that Bing Crosby adopts. People have always asked me who is your favorite to work with, and I'd have to say Jack Benny. He was just the nicest, most generous, wonderful man, and I met him when I guess I was 7 or 8 when I did that, and after that he had me do a couple of his radio shows.
Oh, hello, Mary. Hello, Jack. How you doing? Say, Mary, I called you last night, but your maid said you were out. That's right. I went to the baseball game with Van Johnson. That was nice. Who won? When you're with Van Johnson, who watches the game? Mary, what's this you dropped on the floor? That? Oh, that's the letter I got from Mama. From your mother, eh? What does the third dimension of Plainfield have to say? I'll read it to you. My darling daughter, Mary, just a few lines to let you know that we are all well. The weather's nice here now, but as you probably read in the paper, last month we had an awful blizzard. And when your father came in from the barn, his milking hand was frozen. Gee. I hope it thaws out soon, as we'd like to get the cow out of the house. I don't blame them. Hello, Mr. Benny. Hello, Mary. Hello, Dennis. Hey, kid, I'm glad you got here, because it's time for your... Wait a minute. Dennis, look at me. Huh? Dennis, this is the first time I ever saw you wearing glasses. Are your eyes bad? No. Then why are you wearing those glasses? My uncle died and left them to me. Your uncle? Oh, that's a shame. Yeah, I can't see a darn thing with him. Well, for heaven's sakes, kid, if you can't see with them, take them off. Just because somebody leaves you something in a will, you're not compelled to use it. I'm not? No. Anybody want to buy a set of teeth? Now cut that out. And take off those glasses.
I always got a kick out of the fact that he played the stingy tightwad because he was truly probably the most generous man I've ever known.
And one of our special guests this year will be Stuffy Singer.
So it was a unique group of people. The majority of them weren't staggeringly paid like they are today, and they were entertainers. They were just having some fun and doing their job and go about their business.
Well, hello, little children.
Hello.
Hello. Where's Miss Milford?
She'll be back. She went to get orange juice.
Oh, well, I'll just put these packages down here and wait.
Are you Santa Claus?
Me?
Nah, he's not Santa Claus. He hasn't got a white beard. But he's nice and fat. Yeah, but he's not Santa Claus. Santa Claus never comes around here.
Now, wait a minute, young fellow. I'm sort of a Santa Claus. I brought all these presents to you children.
For us? Honest and truly? Oh, boy. You see, Stuffy, he is Santa Claus. Oh, boy, I gotta come over and see them. Stuffy's lucky. He's in a wheelchair.
Oh. Well, I'll bring the presents around to your little beds when Miss Milford comes.
I want to open mine.
Now, wait a minute, Stuffy. You shouldn't open presents until Christmas.
I don't want to open mine until Christmas. I just want to dream about what's in them.
That's the idea, little girl.
While we're waiting for Miss Milford, will you read us a Christmas story?
Christmas story?
That's what she was doing. Yeah, they're in that book.
Oh, well, I like stories. I used to read them to my niece and nephew. Let's see what we've got here. Why the Chimes Rang, by Raymond McDonald Alden.
I like that one. I don't know it. Well, I've been in the hospital longer than you have.
Yes. Well, let's read it, huh?
The first show I did was, the rep show up there. Now, I hadn't done radio since I was 12 or 13 years old.
True.
14 years old. And I'm a little guy at that time, and little guys normally have their own microphone. And in addition to that, I was small, so they had a box. I remember walking up to the microphone, and there's a bunch of people standing around my microphone, and I'm going, what are all these people doing here? Where do I put my script? And where's my box?
We are talking to Terry Moore, one of the celebrities at this year's showcase. Terry, tell us a bit about your career.
One year I had 30 national magazine covers, like Look, Life, and on and on and on. I was a cover girl, too.
What role are you most associated with?
Mighty Joe Young. I never thought it would be a hit. Everybody remembers me from that movie.
You have a story about Clark Gable.
It was during World War II. I was probably early teens. My mother and I were walking outside of MGM, and she said, there's Clark Gable. And I looked up, and he was in his uniform. I never saw anything so gorgeous in my life, and I screamed and fainted, and he caught me.
Welcome to the show, Terry. I'm glad you were able to make the trip up here with us. Tell me, do you like this part of California?
Well, what I could see as we flew in was very impressive. Rugged cliffs, rolling hills, miles and miles of sand dunes.
Yeah, it all adds up to a wonderful place to live if you're forced into it.
Terry, did you like to do comedy as well as drama?
I did them all. I used to do Red Skelton, Dean Martin, and Jerry Lewis, Bing Crosby, Bob Hope. I worked with Bob a lot. I traveled with him. I remained such good friends right to the end. I worked with all of them.
And Terry, you're a comparative newcomer to the Hollywood scene, and I'm sure we'd all be interested in learning more about you. Would you like to tell us about yourself?
All right, Bob, where shall I start?
With your phone number. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Terry. That was just a slip.
Oh, it's all right. I'm sure you didn't mean anything by it.
I'm glad you're sure. Just tell us anything you want, Terry. For example, what are your hobbies?
Well, I ride horseback, I cook, I love to knit, and I'm a licensed pilot. I fly my own plane.
What a coincidence. That's my hobby, too.
Really, Bob?
Yeah, what size needles do you knit with?
Terry, I understand you have an interesting story on how you got the name Terry Moore.
Right. Well, actually, Harry Cohen changed it because I got my first grown-up role opposite Glenn Ford, and Harry Cohen said, we cannot have two Fords in one movie. I turned to my mother, and he said, what is your maiden name? And she said, Bickmore. He said, that's too long. We'll make it Moore. And he said, what do you want for your first name? And the part was a real Tom girl. Her name was Terry. And believe it or not, I'm the first girl that anyone knows of who was ever named Terry.
What kind of a plane do you fly, honey?
A Cessna two-seater. I've got over 100 hours in the air.
No kidding. Never any trouble?
Oh, not once, Bob. As a matter of fact, I feel that I'm safer when I'm up in the air than I am when I'm on the ground.
Don't look at me.
Well, I've told you about my hobby. Then, of course, there's my work. You see, my big break was getting that wonderful part in Come Back, Little Sheba. It's a gripping picture with great moments of drama. It's the story of a disillusioned doctor whose love for this young girl plunges him into despair. And then in an alcoholic frenzy, he tries to murder his wife with a butcher knife.
Sounds like a sequel to Hans Christian Andersen.
Terry, you did movies starting as a child actor. Did you also do radio?
I always did a lot of radio and loved that. I loved doing radio, and I did the radio while my braces were on. I played Barbara Windsocket on Date with Judy, and I had 4 steady radio shows a week.
How did making radio compare to the movies?
I liked radio because you didn't have to dress up and have hot lights or go on hard locations.
Terry, being in a picture that's up for an Academy Award must be quite a thrill.
Oh, it is, Bob. And, well, even a bigger thrill is being here tonight.
Really?
Oh, of course. Why, now, how many young people starting in show business get a chance to appear with one of the truly great performers?
Well, if you insist.
Well, not only a great artist, but, well, one of the most popular men in the whole world.
Oh, don't lay it on so thick, but louder.
Honestly, Bob, this is one of the great thrills of my life. To think I'm actually going to meet Bing Crosby.
Any thoughts on this year's showcase?
It's wonderful. Just wonderful to be doing radio again. I can't wait. I love it.